I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We'll mark the meeting open at 7:04 p.m. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to go out of order and move down to item number 6. Can I have a motion to do so?
So move.
Motion by Karen, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Item number 6, presentation of citations to Seymour High School cheerleaders. At this point, I will turn the meeting over to State Representative Nicole Claire-Deetria.
Read my name correct. Thank you. All right,
Use the mic.
everybody, thank you for coming tonight.
Use the mic.
What? Use the mic? You don't want me to do it up here?
Oh, yeah, if you're going to sit.
Use mine.
Yeah,
Thanks, Kurt.
you're welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Sorry it took so long for us to all get together to give the citations from the state to the cheerleaders. Now, this is back-to-back, correct? Yay. Great job by the cheerleading team, coaches, staff, parents. It's all, as we know, it's a team effort and it's a community effort. So the town of Seymour and the state of Connecticut is very proud of all of you and the hard work you've done to get to this point. My second question is, how many total in the years of Seymour Cheer state champions? 3? Sandy thought it was 3 total. I thought it was more, but I thought it was 5, but you think it's 4? Okay. All right, without further ado, here we go. Now, you're all used to this because you've seen it already because of last year. So here's a citation from the state of Connecticut, the General Assembly. It's from myself, Senator Kevin Kelly, and Senator Eric Berthel. Be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincerest congratulations in recognition of winning first place at the Connecticut High School State Cheerleading Championship in the co-ed division for Seymour. The entire delegation is honored that you represent your school and our beloved community of Seymour with excellence, dedication, and pride. You should be proud of this accomplishment, and we wish you many years of continued success. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued success. There we go. All right, first person, Grace Renison. Thank you. What? Autumn Ames. Carly Rakuti. Emily Foster. Ashley Gabinelli. Lindsay Gannum. Noah Gold. Emily Leah. Annabelle Palumbo. Caitlin Fetty. Sorry. Gemma Fetty. Leah Fenton. I don't think she's there, right? Ashley Persico. Allie Mashad. Kayla McCure. Samantha Massey. Chloe Martins. Giovanna Vertuccio. Sophia Venditti. Kenzie Dargill. Am I saying? Kaylee Bruno. And last but not least, Casey Rakuti. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you.
If we could have all the girls come up in front of the table, we'll take one big picture with Nicole. And the coaches, yeah. Oh, bring your citations, sure. Parents, if you want to take pictures, you're...
I'm going to stay in the back.
Hey, Jen?
We're going to stay in the
Just
back.
take a picture.
Girls.
Everybody get in nice and close. You guys got to come in. Karen, you need to go.
It is hot in here. We're going out afterwards.
Yep, yep.
I wasn't a cheerleader.
All right, everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay, that side. Everybody good? Excellent. Thank you, ladies.
Congratulations.
You're very welcome.
You're very welcome.
Madam State Representative. Aaron, if you want to set up, go ahead. I got the AC. Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Oh, yes.
You may not believe it. You may not buy it. Huh?
Hey, by a show of hands, how many public comment speakers do we have? Just three?
Three? That's a sign-in sheet.
Aren't we adding you to the agenda?
I was going to do that.
We're going to add you to the agenda, I guess. Sure.
Rosalie
Karen just said something. I'm not recognizing her until I get my cookies. Okay. So with that, we're going to go back into order. No teasing. We'll move on to item number 3, public comments. Mrs. Averill, if you'd be so kind. You got to speak into the microphone. Sorry. And state your name and address for the record. Please. That way they hear you on TV.
Microphone's not on.
Yeah.
It's not on.
Rourke, use the microphone. Larry's gonna charge extra for that. Another hour. That's right.
Rosalie Averill, 38 North Benham Road, Seymour. I'm here as a taxpayer, but I'm also here as a realtor with Rapwani Associates Real Estate. Some of you already know why I'm here, but I'm going to bring everybody up to date. On June 4th, Monday, my broker came into my Seymour office to bring supplies into the basement. Didn't know what he was walking into. It was raw sewage. The sewage came from somewhere in Claris Village. Pipes go under the ground. They're old. We all know that. I called Rory and said, what is going on? Rory had no idea. He immediately called WPCA. Walter and Clint Sympathy immediately came up. It was coming out of the manhole. It was in the basement, like 2 inches. It was disgusting. Walter WPCA, immediately called ServPro. Before he called ServPro, my broker called a plumber. He had no idea what was going on to pump the basement out. ServPro came. They spent hours pumping. Came back the next day with a dumpster. They cut the carpet. They cut the sheetrock. Everything down there was ruined, all right? Walter reassured my broker, don't worry about it, okay? The net of the don't worry about it is that 6 weeks later, the dumpster's still in the parking lot with cut up carpet and garbage bags, raw sewage, so it's not even healthy sitting there, okay? If animals get in there and rip the bags, okay. Nothing's happening. Everything's at a standstill. I've been in touch with Tony because the insurance company called my broker and said, we're not paying for it. The WPCA had no authority to call ServPro. I don't care whose authority is, whether it's the towns, the WPCA. You have an obligation to your businesses and your taxpayers. And if there's something going on internally, that's between you and the WPCA and whoever the privatization company is. My question to Kurt was, what's in the contract? Who manages backups, stuff like that? And it's through no fault of our business because it's not like we added a toilet down there or a bathroom. It came under the parking lot. There's a clean out near UPS. There's another clean out or a manhole right near my office. It was coming out of there. So after that was all done, WPCA had one of their trucks come up and basically clean the parking lot. That's how bad it was. I've been in touch with Walter, not because I've been in touch with him, but I ran into him on the sidewalk. We're at a standstill, okay? We're not asking for the insurance company to pay for the personal property. It's lost, forget it, desks, chairs, or whatever. We need carpet in that basement. It's reeking chemicals from what they use for disinfectant. We need the sheetrock put back and painted. And, you know, I know, something's going on, and that's not my problem. It's not my business. It's between the WPCA and Kurt. My question is, doesn't anybody have any money in their budget for capital improvements? We've got old pipes. They explained to me the pipes come from Felble's Garage, West Street, under the water, and they come up into Claris Village. Hello. There needs to be some type of a capital improvement, whether it's through the WPCA or whether it's the town of Seymour. I'm here to tell you tonight, Friday my broker spoke to a lawyer and I said, hold off, okay? Because I think they need to know the severity of the problem before this gets out of control. I think it's already out of control. If you come in the parking lot, that dumpster's got to go. ServPro's not coming anymore because they're not getting paid. WPCA put a halt on doing anything. I've talked to Tony. Tony's been in touch with, I guess, the town attorney. Was he in touch with you? Okay, all right. Well, Tony's been in touch with the town attorney. He's been in touch with the WPCA attorney. And Tony called me this morning because Kurt promised me somebody would call me. We're not getting anywhere. So I'm imploring upon this board to look into it and take some action real fast. A taxpayer, a business should not be walking in circles, not know what's going on. People are coming into our office and they're seeing this dumpster with garbage bags taking up 2 spaces. 6 weeks. I think that's a reasonable amount of time to handle the problem. If anybody has any questions, you all know how to reach me. All right?
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Is there any other public comments? Is there any other public comments? Okay, hearing no public comment, we'll close public comment. We will move on to item number 4, approve minutes from the June 5th, 2018 regular meeting. Can I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. And Leanne, did you mark the time that Trish and Al arrived? Okay. Okay. All right, item number 5 is first selectmen's report. My first selectmen's report was essentially item number 7. But since they're here, there'll be no first selectmen's report, and we'll move right to item number 7. Discussion with Johnson Controls regarding proposed energy savings performance contract project. So we have actually
What?
3 people. We just did that. 7-0.
Yeah.
They won. It's okay. Brian just wants to justify his time. I get it. That's right, take your time, don't move too fast. Okay, so we have, we've all met Ashley, who's in the back. Ashley's the one who initially introduced the project to us probably 2 months ago. We also have Aaron and Aldo with us. Aldo works with Ashley for ECG, which is our essentially representative in this project. They're the one that's looking out for us. Aaron represents Johnson Controls, the company that will be doing all of the work. So I guess they're going to kind of tag team the presentation. We'll start off with Aldo. So the floor is yours, sir.
Great. Thank you for that introduction. My name is Aldo Mazzaferro. I'm in charge of project development with ECG. So what that means is I work with customers basically throughout the whole project, but mainly up until the point where you're signing a contract to develop the project, develop the costs, the savings, review all of them, work with our engineers to come up with, make sure the designs are appropriate, the costs, the savings, everything is being checked off and investigated on your behalf to make sure the project is a go before you sign the actual contract. Something's going on with the slides here. Go to the next slide, please. A little bit about my company. I'm sure Ashley gave you a brief a couple months ago, as Selectman Miller said. But we specialize in this type of work. It's really all we do, where we provide owner's rep services to cities, school districts, towns, prisons, hospitals, to do these energy savings performance contracts, where we are designers of them, and we're specialized experts in reviewing them, making sure that costs are accounted for, that energy services companies are really crossing their T's, dotting their I's when they're developing these projects to make sure that it flows smoothly after the contract's executed. We've done this on over 100 projects. We're based out of Smithtown, Long Island, so we're very familiar with the Port Jeff to Bridgeport ferry here in Connecticut. As we do have a lot of local clients, we have projects being built at the city of Waterbury, town of Guilford, town and school district of Guilford. These are all town and school districts, city and school districts. Brantford, we have projects fully completed at Cheshire, Southington, Thomaston, Monroe. So we've been here in Connecticut for probably well over 5 years at this point, so we're very familiar with the statutes and the different unique laws that follow the EPC concept. Next slide, please. So I'm going to give you a quick intro to an EPC concept. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but the general idea is that it's written in the Connecticut statute that allows for a school district or a municipal agency to partner with an energy services company, an ESCO for short. In this case, you're partnering with Johnson Controls to develop this project and identify energy savings opportunities throughout all of your buildings. They find these building energy efficiency opportunities and bundle them with building improvements, things like boilers or roofs or windows, things that you need to pay for one way or the other. And through this project, you're capturing energy savings to leverage that funding source to pay for the high need, like a boiler or roof or a window, something along those lines. Next slide, please. Eligible upgrades, we really try to target anything that generates energy savings back to the town. So that can be windows, where you upgrade your windows, it may generate a few $1,000s in energy savings, but compared to the upfront cost, it doesn't exactly pay for itself, but you're doing it for reasons other than energy savings. It's a capital improvement. They're single pane. Aesthetically, they may not look good. They could be leaking in the winter. Big ones that we see in every single project is temperature controls. In this project, we're looking at solar, specifically solar as a renewable energy. There's boilers being done, there's LED lighting, water conservation, all these different things that generate savings back to the town that can be leveraged to fund some of these high-need capital items. So far, previously we had Ashley Hines from ECG come to present to you. And that was at the time that you had issued a request for qualifications, an RFQ. During that, you received 2 proposals. Johnson Controls was ultimately appointed through that process. And since then, they've undertaken what's called a detailed energy audit, or a DEA for short. It's really where they're rolling up their sleeves, getting into your buildings, bringing subcontractors through, really framing out the pricing, the priorities for the city, for the town, looking at all the details, coming together with a final package, which is going to be that detailed energy audit. Those details are starting to flow in. Starting this month, we have some of your building descriptions, some of your baseline data. My company's beginning that evaluation, and the ultimate goal is that we're going to go through that entire package of calculations. It's going to be a book like this thick at the end, where we have questions back and forth, basically having Johnson Controls prove to us that what they're proposing here is going to be in the best interest of the town, ultimately. So tonight we're here to kind of give you this informational presentation and to say that in a few weeks we'll be back seeking your final approval to actually move forward with kind of contract execution. So with me is Aaron Olivero. I'm going to introduce him to talk a little bit more in detail about your project, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. So he's talking about a detailed energy audit, and he kind of said it's like this little review. It's about 750 to 800 pages, and it encompasses your building descriptions as they exist today. And then what we do is we go into each one of the buildings, and we're looking for opportunities to drive down the overall energy cost. And what you do with that energy cost that we drive down is you monetize that. You're able then to put that into a tax-exempt lease purchase, spread those payments out over time, and get more work done. Goals are to improve the temperatures in a room, comfort, light levels. Sometimes there's security goals that we go after, and a whole host of other stuff that I'll go through with you.
3 minutes.
So this is a depiction of how it works, okay? So the left-hand bar is utility. So your total utility spend is about $932,000. So that's your operating budget as it exists today across all of your buildings. What we then do is we go do what we said we were going to do, and we find all those different types of measures that'll drive down the cost. And then if you look at the second graph, what ends up happening is we have a new analysis. The blue bar down below is after the project is what your new budget will be. You're going to fund the budget in whole, and that new money you're going to monetize over a period of time to pay for the savings, so that you don't have to go look for new capital money, okay, through a bond allocation or anything else. So you're utilizing your existing utility budgets, okay, to monetize some investments back into your buildings. Everybody with me so far? Mm-hmm. Okay, we've been doing this since the 70s. This came out as a federal program, and it's really got a lot of traction in Connecticut through Public Act 1180. So the statute says energy savings, 20-year term, pay for all costs. It doesn't stop you from putting any investment in from a capital contribution, but that's not the spirit of what we developed the project here today. We are repurposing the utility incentives, and we do go after any grants that are available, which we're researching now to see if there is. But there are utilities associated with lighting, boiler upgrades, and any of those efficiencies. So we do all of that for you, bring it back to the project, and try to help you monetize and prioritize those different energy conservation measures. We call them ECMs or FIMs. So if I say an acronym, just shoot your hand up if you want a quick thing. So, you know, people do capital projects. You guys do capital projects. You're in the midst of a capital project now. The difference is, I just mentioned them, it's a turnkey comprehensive approach. We're very accustomed to staffing it to get a tremendous amount of work, multi-million dollars worth of work in a short period of time with the least impact. And we have to work closely with your building supervisors to build a schedule that doesn't interfere with the school system for one. So most of that work is done during the summer or on second and third shift, or in the town buildings, where we're trying to coordinate if people have to move out of a space. But it's turnkey. There's no impact to the taxpayers because you're funding all of this work right out of your existing operating budget, and there's no out-of-pocket money. So we've done all of this right now, all this work up to this point for no fees. Let's just assume we sign a contract for September 1st. We will then start construction, and you will start realizing savings from the minute we change something out. So we'll get after weatherization and lighting. You'll see those savings. The term is about usually a year, 12 months. By the time we close out, hand you the warranty books. That's when you would actually start paying for the lease. And the savings associated with it to pay for that work, that's in that center bar there that we talked about out of your operating budget, are guaranteed by my company. Okay? So that's a measurement and verification protocol that's done after that. So we submit the measurement and verification and all of the parameters that are associated with that. They go to your consultant. Your consultant reviews it, sits down with you to make sure that you are, one, financing this out of your operating budget and not out of your pocket, and two, that all of the stuff that we do, we own the performance and the risk. All those things are happening now. So this is just a depiction of the school side baseline and the town side baseline. I know it's really hard to see, but your total spend is broken out into the utilities: gas, electric, and some oil. Go to the next one. So this is kind of showing you in the blue bar where your buildings sit today from an energy use index, which is basically like the consumption of each building by the square foot. And we can look at that and compare them to other buildings of similar type in the same weather zones. And we can tell you where your building is now and where it will be when we're done. So if you see the red bar, it's less. The far side WPCA, it doesn't fit on the graph because it's a big consumer. So it stops. It looks like it's even. It's not. It's just that you wouldn't have been able to see the rest of the differences on the other ones. So, but the buildings are across there, each of the buildings that we looked at. And so that you can see the incremental, some buildings have more opportunity, okay, than some of the other ones. And the comprehensive nature is you would take like lighting. Everybody understands lighting because you probably have changed them at your house. You went to the latest and greatest LED from the incandescent bulbs. And when you get those savings, they have a short payback. So somewhere from like 8 years. So if you're putting an 8-year payback item in a 15-year term, you naturally then can use 7 years of the savings to fund some capital work that has maybe a 35-year payback. So we'll see some of that. This is a better one. It's just so you can see it's the same depiction there. Okay, this is just utility spend analysis as it stands now. Left-hand first one, moving from left to right, that's your total utility spend broken up into thermal, MMBTU units, and electrical, KWH units. To the right is after the project. The difference between those will be what you're using to fund. Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. So this is just a sampling of the different types of energy conservation measures, ECMs. So LED lighting is a no-brainer. If it's not upgraded to LED lights now, you want to put them to LED lights. And everybody's been really worried about the coloring of LED lights. So these are going to be a warm, natural. We end up putting in a sample first just so everybody's comfortable with it, so that it's not like a bright blue white light, because that's not really conducive for the classrooms. So they'll be at 3,500 Kelvin. So, and we also want to increase the foot candles. So that's a measurement on the desk level for the students. We want to make sure that they're getting a minimum, and that if there's a configuration problem or you're overlit, we can then reduce some of that and save additional dollars. So weatherization. So it's what you think of. I mean, the door sweeps, it's sealing around the windows, sealing around pipes, and making sure that whatever you're doing for conditioning air, you're not just sending it outside and wasting dollars. Building controls, I think we talked about that. It's always a high priority. Something like this room is probably on a setback, so the thermostat is set, and there's no ability to schedule it other than hop up there and set there. Having a robust building automation system will allow you to do scheduling, and more importantly, it will allow you to do some diagnostics for anybody that's maintaining it, so they can track some stuff and see some stuff in advance, as well as alarming. So if a boiler, goes down in the middle of winter, somebody's going to get alarmed so that they can address it so it doesn't become a catastrophic problem. Heating, pipe and valve insulation. All the times we run into a tremendous amount of distribution systems that aren't insulated. So the minute you're pumping those from the boiler, they're losing energy right away, and those heat losses are significant. So you're spending a lot of money to condition your spaces through heating. A boiler and furnace. This is where you would need a lighting system to make sure it handles a capital project, because a typical boiler job is over 30 years in terms of a payback. So something that works really well in these projects. And hot water. Window film, attic insulation, VFDs, those are drives, variable frequency drives. So those will ramp down based upon the load on a motor so that they're not just running at 60 hertz all the time and you're just wasting energy or putting too much CFMs out there. Motor replacement. Lots of times we have older motors that can't actually handle the inverters, and they're older and they can't turn down with some of the newer equipment, so that's an opportunity. Vending machine, there's no reason to be having the vending machines on if they're not needed. And photo PV. So solar PV is a big component. There's an opportunity at several of the schools right now, and we're doing some analysis in some of the other town buildings. Plug load controllers, unit ventilers, air conditioning type units. So it's basically all your energy consuming HVAC type equipment. Transformers, they run 24/7. Refrigeration compressor controllers in the cafeterias and those types of things. All right, so this is an eyesore, and I apologize. So what ends up happening here is you get all of the different measures on the left-hand column, okay, that we looked at from an opportunity perspective, and across the top, right under the town of Seymour, is all of the buildings that were evaluated. And in there, you'll see green checks and red X's. Red X means it's something that we evaluated in detail, but it's not part of the project. Green X represents something that's being captured in the project. And remember, I said a 20-year term. We're looking at an 18-year term. We've issued a tax-exempt lease purchase out to the industry so that we can get some information back that it's financeable, and it's financeable based upon the savings that we've calculated. And that represents the project. What you can't see over there is the total, so it won't scroll. Go to the next page as a build-up. It's a little bit easier. So right now, your project stands at being able to cash flow $10.5 million worth of investment. Okay? It's got a 17-year payback. It's being financed at 3.69% rate on an 18-year term. And it's got a 3% utility escalation rate. Next slide. So this is how the cash flow works. Can I?
Just take the mic with you. Rory will follow you with the camera.
So, and I'll block it out. So this is basically year one here, okay? We go all the way down to 20 years. First year, you got $569,000 in savings, in energy savings. Now, some of that is production of electricity through the solar system, okay? There's no operational savings right now, but that would be a calculation of the difference in bulbs, let's just say, or chemicals that are being saved in the pool through the pool cover. So that analysis will be finished up during the end of next week and submitted in the full DEA package for review. And then the ZRACs have an annual value of $108,000, okay? So that is a total of $678,000. Think of it as like how much budget do you have to buy a house? How much amount of money do you have to put back into the schools and town buildings? And then so these things add up, and then we have a net savings plus a debt service. So a tax-exempt lease allows you the flexibility, as savings will change a little bit, is to sculpt the payments to match them. So we've summed it for zero right now. So in year 18, you can see that it goes positive $54,487,000. And that is basically how the program works. I'm throwing a lot at you, so. Next one. So
Everybody understand that?
So a project of this magnitude takes a lot of work. So I've outlined just kind of like how we typically do that. So we have weekly coordination meetings with both town and schools because they're always separate, even if they're under consolidation, which I know you guys are now. There'll be specialty people that oversee certain buildings that will work with them, pull them into the meeting when it's appropriate, and make sure that everybody knows what's going on. But then we're going to put a construction manager on the job and a site supervisor on the job. Coincidentally, Tom actually went to high school here in Seymour. He was super ecstatic coming up here to do the interview for the RFQ. But it wasn't in the current high school. He was over there, and he actually showed me the cells that were at the holding cells that you guys used to have at the end there. So he was probably in them, so maybe it's not a good idea he's running it. And then there's an operations manager who doesn't come on site on a regular basis, but is basically doing all of the work behind to make sure that a project like this stays on time and finishes. Individual measures and documents are sent. So just some of the coordination between your consultant. This is all, got performance bonds and project bonds and all of the insurance certificates associated with a capital type project. And ECG oversees the receipt of the payments, and they go out and do field verification. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, the way our company works basically as your construction administrator throughout that. So on a monthly basis, as they complete lighting, for instance, they may be billing for 50% completion of lighting upgrades in the high school. That would trigger an inspection on our behalf to come out, inspect that, make sure that what they're billing for is appropriate, generate an inspection report for you, and basically submit that to you with a letter basically saying, yes, it's okay to process this payment. It's as simple as that. I mean, we attend weekly meetings, we take minutes, we document the process for you. So our service is designed to think of us as a member of your staff every step of the way throughout construction and into the performance period to basically do the heavy lifting for you.
If you think of the road work that gets done, it's essentially what Brian does when the road work's getting done. We don't make any payments, we don't do anything until Brian actually signs off. So we don't have any town engineers that have the expertise that ECG does. So that's why ECG is here. So they're going to fill that exact same role that Brian does. Nothing will be paid, nothing will be accepted until ECG signs off on it. Again, they're here simply to represent us and make sure Johnson Controls does everything that they're supposed to. Go ahead.
And so I talked about the guarantee. So in our world, it's called the M&V, the measurement and verification. So there's certain protocols that we have to follow. But before all of this happens, all of the calculations, I mean, you wouldn't even want to sit down and really look at it. And I've got a sample of one on here. But all of those calculations go in, and we have to do things that you typically don't see even in the utility programs, where the utility programs might change the lights and they tell you it's going to be $40,000. Well, our same project would be $40,000 of savings when we change out your lights. However, because we put the LEDs, we're not going to have the heat byproduct, so now we have to take a deduction against those savings. Okay, because it's got to be true. It's got to be true nature. So the in-depth nature behind those calculations and the measurement verification is the reason why you're going to want, to have somebody on your side as well. Just go to the next page real quick. So this is a layout of the M&V plan, and so there's different levels of measurement and verification that you can go after in your project. And ECG, when we submit this, will consult with you on what those are. But you wouldn't want to pay us to send team of engineers out here to do more than just measure the lights pre and post. We want to come out and make sure that they're all operational, and if they aren't, there's a warranty period and everything's replaced because we own that performance. But you don't want to pay us to come out and just take readings. What you want us to do, and that would be an option A. What you want us to do is option B, which ECG is requiring on all thermal, is come out and do robust measurements to make sure that equipment is functioning and running the way it was supposed to be from a performance standpoint. So this is just a sampling for you to see. And then this is the last slide that I have, which again is the calculation. And I couldn't even go over it with you, but this is all of the inputs that end up going into a boiler, which only has $2,243 worth of savings. Okay, so this is monitoring over time. This is watching outputs, inputs, and then going through all of that with normalization of weather, so that we'd look at a 3-year history before we can start to actually guarantee the performance of these. So we've been doing a lot of work, and it's coming for review. So, any general questions?
Okay.
Yeah, just two real quick questions. And you mentioned an 18-year term on the financing there. how does that fit with the life cycle of the different equipment? There's a hell of a lot of equipment in there, heck of a lot of equipment in there. I'm sure the PVs are probably a 20-year, I would assume a 20-year life cycle. What about the rest of the stuff?
Sure. So you mentioned PV, so I'll hit that first. It has a 25-year warranty with a degradation. Okay, so over time it has a little bit of a degradation. That's in the calculations and accounted for. But something like, I'll use LED bulbs, for instance. Everybody knows that they last for 10 years. If the project goes to an 18-year term, in our calculations, we're taking what we call as a rebuy. So basically, essentially, let's just say that you have 2,000 fixtures. The rebuy may be in year one, 280 of those fixtures. So each year, we're accounting for savings that aren't being utilized to pay for anything, that stay in your budget because you own, your basic operating cost, and they're rebuying them. So we're not capturing all of those savings, so that on an 18-year term, you basically, in year 18, will have rebought all those lights again. If that kind of explains the way it is. And we would take savings off anything that would be like a 12-year, hard 12-year.
Okay, no, that answers that question. The second question I have involves probably a variable that you can't really account for, but the ZREC program as it stands right now, obviously there's a heck of a lot of savings in there that are predicated off of the ZREC program. Have you contemplated, or what would happen if the ZREC program is phased out before the life cycle of what you're showing actually comes to fruition? Which is a possibility. Massachusetts just changed their solar programs and whatnot, and it's just it's a variable that whatever they're going to do in Hartford could change tomorrow.
They say never, right?
Well, that's exactly right.
So the SREC program in Massachusetts did change, but in the ZREC program is going to change, okay? They're going to have 2 more awards, okay, for the ZRECs before they run into what's called a tariff. So there'll be a KWH rate that Pura needs to set for the production, and then there'll be an option for you to either consume them as cost avoidance or to sell them back for that specific rate. The situation we're looking at now for you is that we have 3 of the ZREC that we've carried in the project right now, and we're going to take a look at the rest of the building stock to make sure that the roofs can handle it, okay, that they can produce enough, and that we'll get costing for those types. We would have to bid into those, so they're unsure. Solar with the subsidy makes really good sense, especially over a 25-year term.
Without a subsidy, not so much.
Not so much. Did I cover
Yeah.
all that?
Yeah.
So you're in on 3 of them. We hope you'll be in more. And then once the Pure rate is termed, as long as you have a contract, then they'll honor their 15-year contracts. So that money's set aside, not on the sweeps. So we're good there.
Okay, who else has questions?
Well, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for the time. The one question I had is, what is the average cost overrun with a program like this with similar specs?
0.
Okay.
0. You don't have to put a contingency. So we own the performance. There's a 0 change order policy. The only change orders that are ever in our contract are directed by scope, where the customer says, you know what, I would like to do this instead. And then we evaluate it, and then we make a change order. That's it. Or a change order deduct.
Okay.
If something happens where you say, hey, now we're not going to do this. The only issue that we ever have, okay, and this is a real issue, is if you take us out of statute. So if you say, wow, I know I signed it, but I really don't want to do this. Well, it's got all the savings. Now I don't have a cash flow program. So that would be an issue. We've never had that happen,
Okay.
but I tell people about that.
Okay. And I remember reading it before. Just one last question. How long has your company been around?
Over 135 years.
Right.
Yeah.
That's over a century, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And where are your locations again?
I'm in Rocky Hill. I live in Manchester, Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have one question.
Sure.
What if something goes a little awry and you don't meet the savings that you're projected?
It's a great question. I should have covered that in the slide. So it's called a shortfall, okay? We have over $5 billion worth of guarantees currently active in the United States right now. We have a less than 1% shortfall. This is engineering and major construction. It does happen. If there is a shortfall, we report it to you the minute we know, and we offer to do corrective action. The shortfall has already been realized, so we cut you a check. And then we offer to do, for no cost, additional measures to make up any of the shortfall so that the spirit of the contract remains the same. So just think of, for instance, I'm going to use lighting, for instance. Let's say there was a building that we didn't even touch, and we're $5,000 short. We've cut you a check, and we say, hey, can we do an evaluation over at this building that, for whatever reason, animal shelter, you didn't tell us to look at. And we go over there and we come up with $4,000 of savings of lighting. We would offer to do that, and then we would find another measure. Come to bring us home.
Good? Anybody else? So you just want to go here and go through the next steps, just quick again for the selectmen, kind of give them an idea of the
Yeah,
the
so
timeline and,
So ECG is in receipt of documentation. It's flowing, okay, where it's baseline information, savings calculations by measures, building descriptions, and the ECM scope write-ups. As all of that information comes through to ECG, they're going to start to compile RFIs, so requests for further information. If it's not there, like show me the ZREC contract. Maybe we didn't include one of the 3 that we already have. So they'll do 3 RFIs, and then I think you'll produce a report.
Ultimately, we would be, we go through this process at the end in the town of Guilford. We just actually signed a contract there a few months ago. That report was 50 pages long, but there was an executive summary on there, don't worry. Basically summarizing our findings, calling out any weak areas, which were actually corrected by JCI. So at the end of the day, you're getting a letter from ECG that's blessing it and saying, yes, this is technically accurate. The measurement verification is in your best interest, all these types of things. And we'd work with your attorney to make sure that the contract is reflective of everything that we've reviewed. Does that cover that?
So we've submitted a contract to your attorneys for review, okay, so they can look at the T's and C's. And then as the scope of work comes out and approved through ECG, it'll get populated. What would happen next is ECG will go through the project from a technical perspective. We're going to get financing in place. The proposals are due back at the 27th, and those packages will be submitted to you. And then we'll be coming back in front of the board for approval for the project to then go into a contract signing. Once the contract is signing, then we start to do all of those steps that we talked about before. Setting up the schedule, sitting down with the personnel, and building a construction schedule that works best for the schools and for the town buildings.
everybody comfortable? So again, we'll see this one more time just to make it everything official at that point, but this is more for informational. We're going to have these discussions as well with the Board of Education to make sure they're aware of what's going on. They've sat in on, at least the professional staff has sat in on all of the meetings, because the vast majority of the work is actually going to be done in the schools, so. Karen?
I would like to see some of this information on paper, because I can't read this.
Yeah, absolutely. I can get you all that.
Guess you just want to email it over to Rory? Rory will pop it out to all the selectmen tomorrow.
I do apologize. Some of that's an eyesore.
It's really small.
You can't see that, Karen?
No. Can you?
I can barely see you at this point. It's so bad. So, all right, if that's no other questions, then Aaron, Aldo, thank you, and Ashley, thank you for your time. And just so you know, we generally don't keep it this hot here, but this was a test to see how good you guys were.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll just take a little 5-second break just to give them a chance to break everything down, because Aldo and Ashley have to make it back to Long Island in this weather, so we want to give them a chance to get out. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion for a 5-minute recess. Motion by Len, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. We'll go into recess at 7:52 p.m.